This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by my CRE Accelerator Mastermind, where you'll get access to my step-by-step investment blueprint, essentially a library of resources on how to invest in commercial real estate. You'll get connected to a supportive community of other commercial real estate investors that are doing projects just like you. You'll get personalized coaching and feedback from me every step of the way. Go to www.crecentral.com to learn more. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. We are live with another Brokers Roundtable today, coming at you facing adversity as commercial real estate brokers. This past week, Chad and I were just talking about this before we went live. I've been facing probably some of the most adversity I might have faced in my entire career because I had three brokers that I had to, how do you put this nicely, release from the firm. Had to release their licenses. Adam's like, they're gone. Because they were trying to steal my clients and go and start their own firm. And so I figured it would be a fun thing for us to have a conversation about facing adversity as a commercial real estate broker, because guess what? It's going to happen no matter what part of the business that you're in. This is probably one of those, the entire industry, you have to face adversity no matter what you're doing. So we'll dive into economic and market volatility. If you joined my office hours this morning, you saw I pissed off at least three guys listening to that saying that tariffs will hurt commercial real estate. I don't know how else to put that. They will. We'll talk about breaking through those plateaus as a broker. And then if we have time, we'll get into managing burnout, getting into mental resilience, which are absolute musts. Chad, first off, facing adversity. Let's talk about the market, coping with a down market. How do shifts in industrial demand, either manufacturing or logistics, doesn't necessarily matter. How does that affect your pipeline as a broker, and how do you adapt to that?
Yeah, great question. And first, sorry to hear that you had such a tough week. I'm sure that's not fun. And maybe we need to talk more about that as a therapy session later on if we have time. But
I'm up for it.
Feel free, man. That sucks. I think you hit it on the head. There's always adversity. There's adversity from day one in the business to the day you decide to retire. There's always going to be adversity, and you can't run from it. You can't hide from it. You might as well embrace it. If anything, I think you need to always be working in a bit of a state of chaos where there's things coming at us from every angle. Today it's tariffs, but 5 years ago, we had a global pandemic and the whole world shut down. And we had the great financial recession. Those are just the big things. Then there's always just local chaos. Maybe you lose a client, maybe a building that you're working on burns down. There's always chaos and adversity. So I think you just need to embrace it and accept that it's going to be there and not fight it, but just try to find a way to work around it. So absolutely, there's always going to be ebbs and flows in industrial, specific to what I work in. But I think that if you embrace the idea that there's always chaos, you also need to embrace the idea that there's always going to be cycles. And there's a long cycle, which is more high level macroeconomic, where everybody gets affected. And then there's individual cycles where it might be your local market. It might even be you. You might be going through something in life that causes you to have to slow down. So I think you always need to be working on refilling your pipeline. I think that's just the best thing that a broker can do is even if you're as busy as you could possibly be, you still need to find a time to make sure that you're actively prospecting. You still need to be finding time where you can be drumming up future business. And maybe that's 5 hours a week. Bob Knackle, who's arguably the most successful broker in the industry right now, still makes 12 to 14 hours of cold calls every single week, which is absolutely crazy to me. But that's his mentality, is you've got to plan for all this shit that can come up, and there's always going to be shit. So as long as you have that pipeline in mind, that you're always trying to add new business, you're always trying to backfill the work that you're having right now, the ebbs and flows don't have as much as an impact as if you go into it without having a plan, or you just always think, woe is me. I think that's the worst thing a broker can do.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, as brokers, all you are is a problem solver. If there's no problems, people don't need you, right? So if you want to be a broker, you just got to get really good at solving problems and hope that the problems keep coming, which they always do. I can promise you this. I've never had a single deal in my entire career go smoothly. Sometimes like the $18 million deals, for whatever reason, you'll get like 5 phone calls and that's it. And the $30,000 deals, man, you are earning below minimum wage for those. But there's always going to be problems for you to solve. That's the fun thing. Adam, on the retail side, man, I mean, we've seen a lot of consumers have maxed out credit cards. There is some interesting consumer sentiment going on today. We've seen several retail bankruptcies, major retailers file for bankruptcy over the past few years. How does that impact your approach on the retail front?
Yeah, this is going to sound kind of contrarian, but a lot of the retail bankruptcies are kind of like dead wood getting burned out of the forest. You know what I mean? And that sounds so cold and like I don't give a shit about all these lives at stake, but that's not the case. A lot of these retailers, they start really, really interesting, and then they're built up and sold to one private equity group, and then that private equity group sells it to the next private equity group, and that's just like the nature of the retail beast. And at some point, the spreadsheet nerds start running the retail business, and then things get bloated or they lose their appeal, and they go out of style. Honestly, those bankruptcies, not always, but a lot of times can be real opportunities, because there's not a tremendous amount of vacancy in my world right now. Especially now, there is vacancy in tertiary malls that are, you got to be way smarter than me to figure out what the hell to do with those things. But I mean, some vacancy coming in well-located power centers is like catnip for somebody like me, because I'm typically working with people that are in the expansion phase, not the contraction phase, right? So honestly, I remember a better example of this is back when COVID was happening and Retail Apocalypse was the top clickbait for every retail associated article that I read for 2 years. And that was when you really were like, shit, everybody's saying the same thing. I guess retail is dead and I should go learn how to, be a garbage man or something. So that kind of large macro scare is a little different than kind of the I don't want to call it healthy amount of bankruptcies, but just enough to kind of keep these things turning. So honestly, it's a little bit of an opportunity in my world, even though that sounds very callous.
I'm enjoying picturing Adam with that flow and the boat shoes and like a J. Crew sweater, like hanging off a garbage truck.
Yeah, I'd make that shit look good, man. I tried.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Nobody even noticed that I shaved my beard. I'm not part of the beard bro. I'm surprised.
Wait, what's up with that?
Even let me on a call.
Yeah, we need to have a side conversation about that, Adam. That's unacceptable, man.
I was just thinking of all the suburban mums waiting for garbage day to see Adam coming by with the sick flow.
They're all outside
beard.
sunning.
I like it. That does sound a little more exciting than being on Zoom calls for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, no kidding, right? At least you're getting out and moving around. Adam, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we were having this conversation the other day with an Uber driver when I was in Hawaii. I mean, it was like, hey, in Nashville, a lot of the businesses that closed during COVID, not all of them by any means, but a lot of them, when they closed their doors, you were like, I feel like COVID's just kind of an excuse. Like this was coming, and it's much easier
the death
for
nail.
them to. That's right. It's much easier for them to say, oh, COVID caused this, or oh, the interest rate environment caused this, instead of saying, I'm a pretty bad business owner. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Right.
And
it's
hold
a lot
on.
easier.
And just to be fair, there were a lot of markets, a la California, and I would assume in Canada, that the government kind of overreach killed way more businesses that would have made it. So just to caveat that, but I agree with you. There were certain places that I looked around and been like, can't believe they made it until COVID, much less, much less after.
Yeah, 100%. Like obviously, it's not every business. I mean, there are plenty of people that faced a lot of adversity. There were some of those, and I'm sure everybody has those examples in their market where you're like, you heard the rumors, management wasn't good, or whatever, right. And it was a good time for them to close.
In my world, it's always tax bills. When there's unpaid tax bills, that's the last straw.
It's time to do it. That's actually a pretty good point. We should start paying attention to that. Question of the day, if you are joining us live, what's the hardest professional challenge that you faced in commercial real estate? How did it change the way that you do business today? Dylan is jumping in. He's saying, toughest thing has been breaking into the industry as a career changer, coming from hospitality. Any tips to help me stand out? I think that's a great question, and that is probably the most common thread of adversity that anybody listening to this has faced. Adam, what you got?
Calling me. So this is extremely just kind of pertinent to my world. So if you're coming from hospitality, you have such a major leg up on anybody else if you want to get into the retail world. So I'm going to tell you a quick story because I don't want to hijack the whole thread, but I got into commercial real estate just before the great financial crisis. Yes, do the math. I'm old. I've been doing this a while. And I learned, I was in it just long enough to figure out the business, but I wasn't really making any money yet. Then a current partner of mine was in the hospitality business for years and years and years, came in right during the financial crisis, didn't know shit about commercial real estate, but knew a ton about hospitality. So I went to him and was like, listen, Dave, his name's Dave, I will teach you everything I know about commercial real estate. You teach me everything you know about the restaurant and hospitality business, and let's turn this into a little niche, right? So we went out and started Restaurant Traffic, which was our blog that like kept track of all kind of the industry trends, what was opening and closing. This is before Yelp and Eater and all these things. And before you knew it, we were the go-to commercial brokerage house for restaurant and hospitality deals. And that was 15 years ago. And I've never looked back. I've made a great living for my family. I've been able to invest and grow really cool concepts. So if anything, your background in hospitality, if used correctly, could be a massive leg up. And my challenge to you would be find somebody else in that business that you can propose what I just said to you, right? Like, hey, I have a shit ton of cool hospitality contacts. I know the ins and outs. I can teach you about liquor costs and labor costs and whatever your skill set that you probably don't even know that you have. You teach somebody else that, have them kind of take you under their wing in the commercial real estate side. And I promise you that you will be looked at as an industry expert, because people looked at me almost like, once I learned all that, especially after I invested in a couple of deals, they looked at me like a friend and a mentor and let me bounce ideas off of you. I've got a problem. They look at you more like a compatriot as opposed to a sales guy. So Dylan, like, trust me, man, use it to your advantage.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, one, it'll help you on the hotel and restaurant side, no matter what, right? You've got contacts there. Use it as a strength. But two, I mean, you're in hospitality. You know how to treat people, how to take care of them, how to deal with customers, how to deal with problems. Those are all skills that translate very well into being a commercial real estate broker. I think you'd be amazed at how many people in commercial real estate actually come from the hospitality world. Whether that's, hotel staff or restaurant staff or anything in that respect, because you learn people, and this is very much a people business. So that was great, Adam. Thank you for sharing that. Chad, I mean, let's dive into using your personal brand to attract high caliber clients, because you've done a phenomenal job of that, right? Like, it doesn't matter how hot or how cold industrial real estate is. You've got to be working on your business. And that's one thing that I feel like a lot of commercial real estate brokers forget about, is that you're also running a business. Even if you don't own the brokerage, you are running a business. So you've done a great job of positioning yourself as an expert despite deal volume dipping, right? Which one can, if things are slow, and they're probably not on your end, I know how busy you are. If things are slow, it gives you something to work on. But two, when everything comes back up, like Adam was just saying, you're known as the expert. Chad, you just released a book, but talk to us about building a personal brand and using that to attract these clients.
Yeah, it's such a great topic, and I think Adam crushed it on the advantages that guy has. And I have always thought that there's two things that a broker needs to do simultaneously, regardless of what stage that they're in. But most importantly, at the early stages of their career, is that you do need to become an expert. It's just non-negotiable. You'll never have success in this industry if you're not an expert at something. And that can be broad, but there's generalists out there that maybe work in smaller markets, or they decide that they're going to focus on commercial and office and do some industrial. I'm just on industrial, but I think that there's a route forward regardless. But you do need to become an expert. That's just step number one. You need to know everything about your market. You need to know everything about the asset class. You need to know things that other people don't know, because there's nothing more embarrassing than trying to pitch business and the client that you're trying to pitch knows more than you do. So that you just have to figure that out early in advance. Become an expert. Second thing is you need to always have a way of getting your phone to ring. And especially starting out, junior brokers are not going to have their phone ringing. There's just nobody calling them. So what can you do? Well, the old school prospecting is awesome. Cold calling, door knocking. I'd encourage everybody to be doing that. But where I think someone like Dylan, and anybody for that matter, could have a huge advantage is use that and incorporate it into social media. Most people are doing social media awful. It's digital noise. It comes across as thinly veiled advertisements. Nobody gives a shit. But if Dylan were to go out and start putting posts out about a restaurant idea that he worked in, so maybe there's a hospitality, there's a restaurant that he worked in, and there's something really cool that they did. Go talk about that and say, I worked at a restaurant a few years ago, and they had this concept where every day at 5:00, they had a 1-hour happy hour where they gave away crazy deals, and the restaurant was killing it. And then it was busy into the evening because of that. Now, all of a sudden, you're providing value to your potential clients. And that's what you want to reach. And I think that that's where there's a huge opportunity for someone that has some industry experience. That's like Adam said, it's related to the industry, but go start talking to your potential clients instead of going on and saying, I just listed this 3,000 square foot CRU. It's $15 a foot. Nobody gives a shit unless they're in the market for that exact type of space. But if you can start creating and crafting a message that speaks to your potential clients, and you offer them value, actual substance, not just artificial, superficial type of shit, but actual real value and real substance. It might not happen immediately, but you will grow a following, because there's a lot of people on social media that are just looking to learn. And the ones that are authentic and provide actual value grow real audiences. And I think that's just another way to get your phone to ring. And it ties into you being an expert. If you start talking about things that are related to your clients, and you're passionate about it, and you're dedicated to becoming an expert, you combine all this and put it on social media, all of a sudden you're creating a brand. And that's essentially what I've tried to do over my 20-year career. I started 2005. So I had a couple run-ups before the great financial recession. I wish I would have done more of this early in my career, because I think that's just jet fuel for career success long term.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like building a community when you get into commercial real estate, and everybody thinks, oh, I got to get to know all the other brokers. You're not selling them on anything. Go surround yourself with the community within which you can actually assimilate and be of help to them, right? Go join the hospitality association. Go join the dental association, whatever it is, right? If you want to do dental clients and deals and leases and sales, whatever, go be with them, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, most commercial real estate brokers don't do that stuff. And that's another way to kind of personally brand yourself, is like, look, I am the commercial real estate broker that knows more about, dental offices than anybody, because I'm on the board of the association. There's things like that where it's like, man, if you could work your way into that, I mean, you're really going to be on it as a broker, and you'll be able to break through no matter when times are slow, because there are still people that have to do deals, right? Adam, on your end, what strategies do you use in times like these to deepen your relationship with landlords? I think it's a great time to start looking back at these relationships that we all have with certain clients, and making sure that, hey, no matter what goes on, I'm here to help. So how do you approach that with your groups?
I'll just mention something that I did today. So a big part of my business is consulting and helping developers figure out how they're going to redevelop a piece of property, right? Because it's, a lot of these people are multifamily experts or office experts or something like that. They have a retail asset, or they have a piece of their project that's retail, and it's just not their strong suit. So I come in and help them design that. Well, there's a new client that I really like that's doing some things that are kind of aligned with my brand. And I spent an hour today, and I've got another hour on my calendar late this week, taking an asset that they have that they were like, hey, Adam, we're going to take this X thousand square feet asset to market. And what do you think it's worth? How long? Give me your MLAs, your market leasing assumptions, and tell me what you think you're going to get. Instead of just bullshitting them like any other broker would have done, I was like, hey, there's 10 other buildings that kind of look and smell and taste like your building that are all kind of on the market, and none of them are really doing that much. Let me take your plans and chop it up and show you how I would break it up and what merchandising mix I would put into this building if it was mine, if I owned it. And I don't have one penny invested in this thing. And, I'm at least 8 months from making a red cent off of this group. But these guys are closing deals, and a lot of people are just talking about closing deals. So I'm like, you know what? Let me take my professional expertise that I normally charge people for. I believe in what you guys are doing. Let me take the time to map out the exact strategy of what I would do, who I would go after, what I think it's going to cost. Let me then sit down with your architect and kind of go back and forth, talk about sequencing, talk about what we might have to do if this little strategy doesn't work and we have to pivot. So I think just, Tyler, I feel bad because I say the same like 5 things on these calls, but it's like, how can you go back and add value to these people, right? Like, how can you go back and be like, you know what? I know I'm going to get the listing because I'm really good at exactly what you need. But instead of just saying that and say, hey, sign here, press hard, third copy's yours, it's like, let me go in and really act like an owner and show you exactly what I would do. And then be like, let me know how I can continue to add value this week, next week. So it's really like being there when people need you, when reading the headlines today will screw up your world, right? It's like, how can you add value when people are nervous? So it ain't rocket science, but that's what I try to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, even if you repeat that on every single episode, which I certainly don't feel like you do by any means, that is still the most important thing that anybody should ever get through their head, is how do you add value? It doesn't matter if you're a broker, if you're a father, if you're a husband. I mean, it doesn't matter at all. It's like, how can you add value to everything that you're doing? How can you make things better? And I think that's a great core tenet to have.
And Tyler, the other thing that I repeat every single episode, so I might as well tack it on here.
Let's throw it in.
Add value while you play the long game. Because I didn't add value and then call them back tomorrow and ask for a favor. It's like, add value. And I know that next time they're looking at a hard project, why would they call somebody else when I literally took time out of my day and used 20 years of experience to be like, if I own this, this is the playbook. So add value, long game.
That's right.
I'm done. I can sign off now. I've added the 2 things that I say every week.
We'll see you next time. Yeah. No, I think it's great, man. I mean, I think it's right. Like, commercial real estate is a long-term game, and especially like when you look at the stock market today, I mean, one, it makes me very grateful that I'm not a big stock investor. Do I have stocks? Sure. But it's not even remotely close to my real estate portfolio, not even in the same realm. And that makes me feel good because it is a hard asset. And as a commercial real estate broker, this is the greatest time for you to be talking to anybody that is an investor and telling them why they should be buying commercial real estate. It's because they're not going to get on and find that some CEO has said something unbelievably stupid that has caused the stock to tank. You have zero control over, and there's no hard asset backing it up, right?
Can I add
pretty great.
Can I add one thing though? I couldn't agree more, and I'd like to think that I harp on both of those things that Adam said. You've got to add value. You got to think long term. I would add though that especially when you're starting out, your job is to start getting some money in pretty quickly. Whether if you start off as a pure junior and your job is to just do whatever your mentor asks you to do and that's it, then do that. I'd never recommend somebody try to circumvent what they're actually being paid for. But if you're into the business now and perhaps you're making a small draw or perhaps your commission sales, yes, add value, yes, think long term, but you do need to start finding a way to get money in now. So figure out how you can be creative on that. I think that's where you want to be door knocking and cold calling early in your career, because you at that point you almost just want to be looking for quick deals. You might find someone that says, oh yeah, we'll consider moving in 3 years. Put that away, store that away. What I think one of the best things you can do when you're first starting out is having some early successes. So find people that are like, oh yeah, no, we are looking to move. We've been looking for it for a while. Maybe you have to make 300, 400, 500 calls before you get that guy, but it's imperative for your confidence, for just your longevity in the business, for your ability to pay your bills. You need to have some quick successes. So cold calling, be opportunistic, look for people that have an immediate need, and then also ask other people in your office, assuming that you're in an office with other people, who are you working with right now that's been a pain in your ass? Or do you have any small files that you're running with that aren't of interest that I could work on? Be very aggressive, because I guarantee any senior broker right now has too much on their plate. And if someone came to them and said, listen, let me help you out, I'll make you look good, maybe you get a small referral for it, whatever it is. Maybe you don't get anything, but you will find people that if you're eager and you're enthusiastic and you're hungry, senior brokers love that. So they'll find a way to get you business, but you have to ask. It's not just going to come to you. You can't just sit at your desk waiting for your phone to ring, waiting for another broker to come drop that off. So I love what Adam says. I would never dispute anything about that. And I am unequivocally supportive of that, but I would also just want to add that in, have some quick successes. You need to pay your bills. It's momentum building. Lots comes from it by just doing that. So think long-term, think value add, but also just find a way to start getting some cash flow in immediately.
Well, Chad, you don't have to pay your bills. There's no rules anymore, man. We can do whatever we want. Sorry, Adam, what were you saying?
Well, I would just say what he said about momentum, I think is really, really important, because it's both momentum in the marketplace that you can go back and truly say, like, I did that deal across the street. And then for me, I mean, maybe I'm just a really self-conscious person, but mentally to have that momentum and that confidence that you can then build on, especially early in your career. I remember my first deal, I probably made like $200, but it was like that, seeing that first check, seeing that first deal that you took from knocking on a door or tagging along with a broker to actually getting handed a check. I mean, I still remember it, 20 years later. It's a massive, massive change in your mentality. It's like, if I can do this, I can do one 100 times this size. So totally agree with you, Chad.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's the same process. You might just have to have a little bit different knowledge to do something bigger, but it's the same
and it
process.
Stacks, right? The first time you do that deal, it stacks. I remember the first time I did like what I would call like a corporate or an institutional tenant rep deal. I was able to use that to go get the next bigger one. I remember the first time I did a corporate institutional landlord rep deal. It's like, now I've done my rep. I can go pitch the next guy because these people all know each other. So that momentum building and confidence building is massive.
That's right. Yeah, you work your way up. You build the track record, and you gain the experience, and that's how you can break into these bigger and bigger deals. Guys, thank you all for joining us. I think that this was a great conversation around facing adversity. If you are enjoying the show, don't forget to like and subscribe. Adam's got confetti going all over his screen right now.
I'm so
simply
jealous.
Because he gave us a peace sign. I don't know.
There's a couple. I figured out a couple of them.
Oh, you can do hearts too?
You can do hearts. I haven't figured that out.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyway, like and subscribe. Leave us a review. This is great.
Yeah, what the hell?
Appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next one.
See you guys.
Okay.
This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by my CRE Accelerator Mastermind, where you'll get access to my step-by-step investment blueprint, essentially a library of resources on how to invest in commercial real estate. You'll get connected to a supportive community of other commercial real estate investors that are doing projects just like you. You'll get personalized coaching and feedback from me every step of the way. Go to www.crecentral.com to learn more.